What you want, what you want, what you gonna do when Chevy John don't come for you?
Law enforcement officers across the metro are working for more arrests to stop the rise in carjackings.
Minneapolis in just the last 48 hours.
This evening, we've learned that police, in coordination with the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, just completed a 3-day detail. The focus was on hot crime spots in the city and to combat the spike in carjackings. For the first time, a Twin Cities carjacking victim is sharing her experience as a warning to others.
Carjackings have recently become so common that Minneapolis police created a new system to track them. That system started last month. Since then, police reported another 61 carjackings, nearly 2 per day.
Phil is a victim of a crime that is way up this year around the Twin Cities: auto theft. In St. Paul, car thefts are up 11% so far this year, but in Minneapolis, they're up 41%. That's 787 more car thefts this year than this time last year. In Bloomington, where Phil lives, police told him stolen cars usually turn up and that they would call him.
Sure enough, 2 days later, they called and said, "Hey, we found your car."
Found it in Robbinsdale, crashed into an apartment building after a chase with police. The 3 suspects got away. When Phil checked out the car at the impound lot, he was surprised to see the amount of effort the thieves gave to disguise the car.
They took the license plates off the car and they replaced them with, dealer plates.
They spray painted rust spots and removed automaker decals. Phil is thankful his car theft didn't involve a carjacking, which Minneapolis and St. Paul police both say is happening at an alarming rate, often involving young teens, like the 12 and 13-year-olds accused of leading police on this high-speed chase in August after sticking up the owner. But Phil is disappointed to learn he's on the hook for the $500 plus towing and impound fees.
I was the victim. I thought somebody else may cover that fee.
Phil's insurance agent tells us that's the case for victims who have just liability insurance. But doing research, Phil found the Minnesota Crime Victim Emergency Fund, which was able to pay that cost. He hopes sharing his story helps others who find themselves in the same unfortunate position he's in.
Hopefully we can, get a little bit of visibility to this so that other people can find that this source of help is available.
Lou Ragoose, KARE 11 News.
Now, carjackings get classified as a car theft and a robbery. Robberies in Minneapolis are up 34% this year.
But what about the idea that the police are there to protect you? We asked David Kopel, a former prosecutor.
What the courts say again and again and again is you can sue the government because it failed to protect you, but you're not going to win anything. The government has no legally enforceable duty to protect the public.
The best or worst illustration of this point came in the District of Columbia's appeals court decision in Warren v. D.C.
In March 1975, 3 women were living in a townhouse in Washington, D.C. Under D.C. law at the time, they were forbidden to own not only handguns, but mace, pepper spray, or other non-lethal self-defense tools. Late one night, a pair of thugs broke in and began beating and raping the woman who lived downstairs. Upstairs, the other women called 911 and were told police were being sent. As the court later acknowledged, the 911 dispatcher only reported a domestic disturbance at the address. The squad car that responded saw no disturbance, checked the door, and left. The women upstairs called 911 again and were again told help was on the way. This time, the dispatcher didn't even bother sending out a radio call. Believing their friend was dying, the women upstairs called down that the police were on the way. Instead of fleeing, the thugs grabbed them too, and, as the court noted with restraint, subjected the 3 women to a 14-hour nightmare of rape, beatings, and abuse. The women sued the District of Columbia and lost. The D.C. Court of Appeals ruled that the city had no legal duty to protect its citizens.
Even when its employees had promised that help was on the way and then refused to send it. Under the ruling, the D.C. government was free to refuse to protect its citizens, even as it was free to ensure that they could not defend themselves either.
All those police chiefs and mayors and so on who say, you don't need a gun, just rely on us. Well, that's what they say for public consumption. But when somebody is raped, because they called 911 and nobody responded, or robbed or murdered, and the family sues the police come forward with the statutes that exist in every state, which say the police are not responsible for protecting people.
Tonight, Jennifer Merrily shares one victim's terrifying experience from just 4 days ago.
It was 3 o'clock on Friday. Susie parked on Chowan Avenue South near 50th. Soon after she got out of her SUV, she says another car pulled up out of nowhere.
4 young men got out. One of them had his arms spread open wide and I think said something, came at me, pushed me to the ground.
She says the masked teens took her purse and bag while kicking her on the ground. She still had her cell in her hand.
They were hitting me and kicking me, saying, "Give me your passcode, give me your passcode." That's when I realized I need to give up my phone or I'm going to be killed potentially.
It's a residential street and neighbors started appearing. The suspects took off in their car. 2 came back on foot for her 2012 SUV. This is a picture of Susie when she bought it.
They jumped in my car because they had found my car keys in my purse.
Susie carries pepper spray and has taken self-defense, but says it didn't matter. She's bruised, sore, swollen, and says she's looking for leaders to better protect people in Minneapolis.
They've got to fully fund a fully staffed.
So here's the plug to fund Minneapolis police. Now again, they have no obligation to protect you, and when seconds count, like in this lady's incident, cops are minutes away. Police are never there when the crime happens. They're never there before the crime happens. And even if they are, they have no obligation to protect you, which we all need to keep that in mind. So when she's plugging that they need more police usually show up and find a reason for you to get in trouble. Just like if you leave your car running to let it warm up, you're going to get the ticket, you're going to be at fault, and you're the one that's going to be paying for all of it. And somehow it's your fault someone else committed a crime against you.
Wednesday night in Minneapolis, there were 4 carjackings, 3 near the Lake of Isles. Minneapolis is not the only city dealing with carjackings, as Reg Chapman reports. Law enforcement are pulling resources to catch those responsible.
Bill and surveillance cameras across the metro are capturing the crimes in progress. This video from Roseville shows how quick carjacking suspects can take a car, left alone for less than a minute, to warm up. Cameras outside his home in Blaine captured this, another attempt to take another car from him.
It's frustrating when you see the statistics on repeat offenders, and the numbers keep rising every year, and there's not enough.
6 people now face federal charges for conspiracy, firearms violations, and violent carjacking in the capital city. Last month in Minneapolis, 41 people were arrested during a joint law enforcement effort that used State Patrol helicopters to track down those responsible for a host of carjackings. 7 vehicles and 5 guns were recovered.
Police say if you are confronted, give up the keys and don't chase after anyone who has taken your property. Law enforcement across the metro are working together to find those responsible for the carjackings.
Bad boys, what you want?